Robert Gaetan is president of the Rio Grande Valley chapter and also heads up the social media team here at NPSOT. Greg Dalton is webmaster of the Society's website. Robert and Craig will talk today about how you can use websites and social media to communicate across our organization. Take it away, Craig.
This session is primarily oriented around using Facebook, websites, tools like that, digital tools, to better communicate about your chapters or about native plants. So how many of you are in a chapter that uses digital tools right now? You already use that? And so y'all are here to learn more about that, right? Just making sure we're all on the same page. We're not going to get into plant knowledge today, unfortunately, for Robert. So with that being said, let's just dive right in because we've got limited time. All right, y'all heard the introductions of us. I think you know. Robert, you want to add anything?
The only thing that I'm not sure was mentioned was I also do the social media for the society's Facebook page, Instagram as a whole. And so not only am I the chapter president down in the Rio Grande Valley and the webmaster and the social media for the chapter, I'm doing it for the society as a whole. So part of my interest is how can the society communicate with all of you and how can we improve the communication you give back to us to share across the state. So we recognize that it's a two-way street and it should be. And it just shouldn't be the state publishing things that it wants to, but rather what's going on in your area that is really important for everybody to know.
Yeah, great point. All right, so social media platforms. How many of you use Facebook right now to learn about plants as a part of your native plant journey? Wow, it's not all hands. Interesting. I fully expected that. Now, how many of you use websites to learn more about native plants? Wow, okay. That's great. So let's go into some examples. So come on in again.
Figure out where I was going.
It's all right.
You're all right.
So let's talk about some Facebook groups that or Instagram if you use it. Let's come up with a few examples. What examples of Facebook groups are you a part of that you get native plant information from?
Texas Flora.
Texas Flora. That's a big one for all of us, right? Okay. What else?
Texas Trees.
Texas Trees. So there's a new one. Haven't heard of that one. Any others that really come to mind?
Well, the Austin chapter and Hill Country chapter Facebook, very active.
The NIPSOTs. Yeah. The Austin chapter NIPSOT has over 10,000 members, even though we only have 400 NIPSOT members in Austin, but our Facebook
Hill
is
Country has 11.
11,000.
I started it with Zip. It's amazing.
There you go. It is amazing. I joined your group because it is so active. Any others come to mind?
Landscaping with Texas native plants.
There you go.
Good one, good one.
Now, that's one of ours, isn't it, Robert?
So Texas Flora and the landscaping with native plants are part of the NIPSOT
Oh, really?
Family.
umbrella.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
No, but as you notice, one of the things that we definitely do intentionally is that it's wide open. And the only thing that we end up doing is sort of looking for that occasional, that post that, which reminds me very quickly that you can report any post that you find that is inappropriate. We can sort of automate some things so that it's looking for keywords. But if you ever see anything that you question and say, wait a minute, that does not belong. As soon as you flag it, and if you don't know how to flag it, we'll post something to show you. That goes to the administrators right away. So that you see a piece of content, you know what, that doesn't belong. And we need to keep this nice and clean and for its main purpose that we have to do that.
And the spammers are constantly attacking us.
Absolutely.
Day in and day out. So let's talk about, well, there are a few other Facebook groups, just Pollinator-friendly yards, that's a good one.
Homegrown national park.
Homegrown national park.
Trees from seeds.
Gardening and native plants. Gardening with native plants. That's the grow it, build it people. It's not Texas specific, but they have a lot of really good info. What about the Texas Native Plant and Seed Exchange Facebook group?
Are they still doing stuff? I haven't heard from them in years.
They're still doing that. It's not as active as some of our IPSOT ones, but let's talk about
I love healthy yards.
healthy yards. That's a
They
new
have
one.
great,
Thank you.
I've used some of their graphics and talks.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about websites. Wildflower.org. Everybody has got us to Wildflower. That's because of the plant database. Is that what you're mostly doing there? Looking at plants, right? We're trying to replace them. What about a vendor, like a seed source? You go there? Like, I've got it permanently open in my, even though I'm not always buying, I'm always looking. Yep. Dave's Garden, anyone use that one? Yeah, that's a good one.
And then I moved back to Texas from California, and the information wasn't nearly as pertinent.
That's true. You've got to be real careful. It's not specific. Same with the Grow It, Build It website. What about Pam Pinnock? Now, she's from Austin, and so it's pretty relevant. That's a good one. So what are you doing on those websites? Yeah.
The local Active Gardener Association.
Local associations. Now with websites, what you're doing is you're typically looking stuff up. That's what I hear y'all saying. You're looking at the plant database. You're looking for how-to information. Robert, how does that differ from Facebook?
So we sort of see the Facebook and the Instagrams, they're more dynamic. And there are pieces of information that get posted out there. A lot of people don't realize if you go to a Facebook page and you're looking for the recent content, but you're looking after somebody post a question about this plant? You can actually do the search and it will pull up past posts. And some of our history is very long, but at some point in time, somebody probably asked the same question that we're looking at. But most of the time, we look at it as sort of as a newspaper. The latest and greatest feeds and things that we see are always changing and are always moving. The way we try to make it work is that we realize that content keeps moving and that queue keeps changing. All the really sort of historical static information that we want, we try to make sure that Craig catches it on the website, because searching on the web is to us a lot more efficient for you. So whatever becomes really pertinent information that we want to save, we want to make it as a page, something that is static, something that you're going to find very easily and very quickly. That way you can know, you always go back to the NIPSOT page and you're going to capture that. And so we kind of treat the Facebook sort of as a newspaper, something very dynamic that's always changing. But then Craig is sort of holding the treasure of all the things that you can find, and they're not going anywhere. Yes.
Well, one thing I have about Facebook is, I mean, who, you don't know the expertise of anybody. I mean, so that's why I don't even bother. I would rather go to something that's verifiable.
And the way I look at it is you can find that the really good Facebook groups will flag someone as an expert, as a moderator, and it will show up with their name as part of their comment or part of their message. Now, what we have in the Rio Grande Valley is that we have 3 or 4 different Facebook groups specifically for plants in the Rio Grande Valley. And they are administered by who we would say are the experts in the Rio Grande Valley for our native plants there. And so when you see, and you go there often enough, you begin to sort of recognize their reputation. And you begin to see that, okay, if that person is saying this, then there's a background knowledge as to why. Sometimes they're a grower from one of our nice partners. And so you see that and it's like, yeah, this person has been propagating these plants over and over again. When he says this is the best way he found to propagate it, you can take it with a little bit of extra information. If you see me post things about propagating, keep walking, keep looking.
But do the points now on Facebook, there's a points, does that reflect someone's contribution in the past? Does the higher points mean I'm better?
Not necessarily, but it does show you that they're very active. that they're out there. And part of our hope is that if you see that number associated to somebody, that's somebody that's been going in there and reading, that they're sharing the information that they have gained over time. So there is a little bit of a value, but you, again, take that with a grain of salt as to the credibility of the person. Yes.
I think this is a great point because it applies to our chapter Facebook page.
Exactly.
And so with our chapter, we cut off the ability for anybody to post on it except for the administrators. And then we opened a private page that's just for our members. And anybody can put anything in there if they're a member. But it keeps a lot of the trash off of our public Facebook page.
And so that brings up this big point that from the society's perspective, your chapter's administration of your website, of your Facebook pages and so forth is strictly to your chapters to decide. Do you create it as a public group and put in that sort of moderation to keep an eye on it? Or do you make it private where members can only comment but not post original content? That we totally leave it up to you. So as a society's Facebook page, sometimes I have administrative rights to your chapters if you've granted it to me. Because sometimes we'll get a question of, well, can't you remove that? I'm like, no, I'm just an observer just like anybody else too. And that is some of the things that we need to understand. Yes.
So we actually have a social media policy on that. And it was passed about 5 or 6 years ago, so it needs updating as things, need to happen. And all of the chapter Facebook pages are supposed to, by policy, have the state website as an administrator. As it's a fail-safe in case they belly up or something, but
Right. We have some chapters that have lost access to their own Facebook because somebody walked away and they had to create new ones. That would have solved those problems.
and that's why we put it in place. But
Yeah.
getting compliance from all the chapters is another story.
Yeah. Well,
Because we don't have anything but carrots, we don't
Yeah.
have sticks, right?
so that's why we're talking about it
That's
too.
the first time I've ever heard of that.
Oh,
I'm gonna charge you.
Okay, so we just need to communicate better.
So one of the things that, like Craig said, is chapters have lost access because somebody has moved on, changed roles somewhere else, and nobody knows the password. And at that point, I'm like, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah. Even Facebook won't help you.
No.
Oh, really?
And they're doing it because they don't want to give something away that they should not be doing.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So there is a way that in your chapter or in your Facebook page, you can be affiliated with the Native Plant Society's page, and that automatically grants us access to be able to unlock it, give access to somebody that needs it. And also one of the things that it gives us is that instant notification that somebody posted something on your page that somebody's reporting. So that if I see that bad content on a chapter's Facebook page, I go in and remove it right away. So if I'm up at 2 a.m. doing something and I get that, my intent is to get rid of those right away. Because when you guys go visit your Facebook page and see something that you do not want to see, chances are you don't want to go back.
Yeah.
And we recognize we need to nip those in the bud right away. Or else it just makes things bad for everybody. And sometimes I can be allowed as a visitor to your page and I see those, but I can't do anything. So again, this is one way that we can definitely work together on a whole lot better.
Exactly. All right, so we've level set on the platforms, the kinds of platforms we're talking about. We also use Instagram. The reason I was surprised about Facebook is, I don't know, maybe my kids told me this. Facebook is for old people and Instagram is for the youngs. And, and I'm not doing TikTok, so you don't want to see that. So, but it's not quite that black and white. So we're all experimenting with alternate platforms like Instagram, trying to reach new audiences. We want to get this message out. And so Facebook is not meant to be, we're not dictating Facebook. Try it all. Austin started doing Instagram. We got thousands of subscribers like within the first month, as soon as we got the word out. So people are there, and we're not putting the same content in each place. We're trying to tailor it. You are too, Robert, on the state. So think about the platforms, think about the audience. The rest of our presentation, we're going to talk about the message that we're trying to get across through these platforms and what belongs where. So before we get into that, I just want to refresh. I don't have a slide on this, but Ricky mentioned it. The mission of the Native Plant Society, what we're all trying to do here, promote conservation, research, and utilization of native plants and habitats through education, outreach, and example. So the things that people are coming to your website or your Facebook for are to learn how to use plants, what plants to use, give me some tips. That's the same things you're looking at Facebook for, right? Give me a little scrap of knowledge. Maybe I'll save it. Maybe I need it right now. Maybe I'll save it for, when I need it, next spring when I do the plantings. But keep in mind that ultimately we're just trying to promote native plants because that's the mission of our society. And so
the bigger mission is we're trying to save the world, starting with our little.
that's the truth.
That's the big mission.
You got that. So how do you make people want to look at your content? So we talk about engaging content, making something that someone wants to watch, Robert. One of the things I think you do really well is you don't take just a basic picture of a flower and put it on Facebook. You put content in that. And I wondered if you could speak a little bit to your approach to engagement.
There are times that a picture says it all. But oftentimes I'll look at it thinking, okay, there's a little something more that I need to add to catch somebody's attention. And sometimes it can just be as easy as saying, this looks fantastic, and well, what looks fantastic? And that lets you dig in further. Some of the content that I put in there is a link back to a page that Craig created that has all the information that you want. But I go back in that article or in that story, I'll capture this one quote from the author, from some of your chapter members, that says it all. And I'll put that as the tag for that post that I know in that entire story, this is one of those things that's going to get you to want to go read the rest of it. And those are little things that people will look at. Now, how many people saw that post with Haley on that Force of Nature contest? To me, when you look at that, one, it's in a classroom, which fits her content. It has her on the chalkboard. And if you play it, it's her speaking to you in her own voice about what the contest is all about. The challenge for me is many of you do not want to see yourself on a recording. So even an audio, even if there was a picture and I had your voice to be able to put to it, that gets people interested because it's somebody just like me that's saying it. And even some of the folks that can speak Latin, that's over my head. But give me that common name and you're telling me how you planted this plant or what's so beautiful about it or when it blooms, and it attracts me to want to go pay attention. And with my content, I'm always trying to, not only do we have Haley there presenting, we have a little bit of cute graphics to keep you interested, and then we have a link to Craig's page to take you for more information. I look at Facebook and what we're doing there is as that sort of short message to get your attention to go look at where the content is. The pages that I don't, or the Facebook posts I don't like to look at is when you click on it and there's an entire story. And I'm like, what? You know what? If it's more than a paragraph and you didn't catch me at the very beginning, I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so, and my hope is that, especially when I see Craig's emails, sharing what's on the content, and it's the same email that goes out to everybody. That's when I'm like, okay, you know what? I need to key off of that page. And if I can highlight that really essential comment from the author, then that hopefully entices you to want to go there. My second best would be if you wrote the article, you would give me a short 30-second clip reading a little bit of part of it to entice people to want to go read it. That would be fantastic. We just need to get away from being a little camera shy. Because you guys look great on film. It'll be really great for other folks.
Yes, you are. Yes, you do. And so the other thing to talk about is interactivity, is make something that makes somebody want to click. So you're trying to hook people, you're literally planting seeds that make them want to click to more information or get all the details behind it once you've got that seed planted. Other things that you've done and we do as a society frequently, contests. Contests are extremely popular. So this is a seed I'm planting for your chapters. You should do chapter contests. And, what is your favorite, nominate the next plant of the month, or let's do a crowdsourced plant of the month, or, other types of, send us your best pictures. We just had the video and the photography contests and all went through the state. And boy, I can tell you, because I was watching those come through the website, hundreds of submissions. People were very engaged in that kind of stuff because we're all taking some amazing picture of a bug or a plant in our backyard and wish that somebody else could just look at this. And so think about types of contests or other challenges. You've posted some challenges as well. I think there's one going right now, isn't there?
And you heard about the plant the native, at least one native plant in your yard for the month of October.
That's what I'm talking about.
And then put it out there in the Homegrown National Park.
Yeah.
And that's a great initiative from our society with the Homegrown National Park folks to get this into a bigger map, across the US. If you're not familiar with the Homegrown National Park system, this is Doug Talany's idea that we can restore more native land starting in our backyard than the government could by creating all these state and national parks. And if you haven't read his work, it's fantastic. I love that initiative, but if you go to the map, Texas is not one of the big states contributing a lot. And it's not the state, not yet, yes. And it's not, and I hate saying Texas because it makes you think, oh, it's the government, it's no, it's us as the citizens of the state. And we as a society, how large we are with how many chapters we are and how many gardens we go help at, not just yours, but all these community parks, all of those are valid entries into the Homegrown National Park that we can make Texas stand out as a place that really has a lot of native plants for our habitat. Part of what I want to be able to do is not only with this initiative is then take your examples to be able to put them on our Facebook page to show the rest of the state and the rest of the world what we're doing, what you guys are doing as part of that.
And we do have a new page on the website that goes through the exact steps to add Homegrown National Park. I think it's under resources or something like that. One other comment I'll make before we move on is vary your content. And that's something that I think Robert does a really good job of. I'm not as creative as you, so my stuff tends to look the same, and I think people get numb to that look and feel. You're constantly trying different visual styles and graphics, trying to see what works, trying to just plant. You don't know, it might work for you, but not for you. And so we've got to, just like a prairie, we've got to plant a lot of different kinds of seeds out there to see what sprouts.
I have a question about the Homegrown Initiative. How does it link where you say you have it?
Your community, you do not have to use your street address for safety.
Yeah.
That's what I figure probably is part of the Texas attitude is.
Yeah.
And maybe making sure that letting people know that this is not marking your house.
That's good advice.
We've got so many federal and,
I'll take that.
employees of different flavors.
In many ways, it's sort of like if you use iNaturalist, you're able to obscure,
Yes.
and that gives you a very large radius. Nobody knows that plant is in your backyard, so nobody's going to jump over the fence and try to get a picture of it or anything like that. It's the same idea. Part of me, so when I look at my gardens, it's in my hometown, but certainly not where I'm at. I wouldn't mind having it show where I'm at so that I can tell my neighbors, why don't you plant some too? And so to me, it's sort of a good and a bad. I'd love to be able to, if you drive by my house, you know how the one presenter showed the HOA lot of, I can't remember the author's name right now. he's in an HOA, but if you drive by his yard and then everybody else's yard is,
Oh, yeah.
that's our house, that's our, so, yeah. Drive down our cul-de-sac, there's not one native, it's all lawn, and you'll know where I live. They kind of stare. I live outside the city limits, so there's very little that they can do. The county can do stuff, but the county, and we're partnering with our county commissioners to say, this is what every house should look like. Because guess what? I have not watered my lawn in 2 years.
Good, yeah.
And my neighbors are mowing their St. Augustine every other day.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So,
what was I gonna say?
yeah, well, you said it. I think it's great. And an example of the types of content that you can use on your channels and Facebook and on your websites, advocacy. Homegrown National Park is a great example of advocacy. We're advocating for people to join this, to plant some native plants, to take some active steps. Some other advocacy examples that we use in the society, plant rescues. How many of you have seen or promoted plant rescues? Now that's in Central Texas, that's becoming very popular. And there's some groups that are dedicated to that and Facebook groups. But NIPSOT plays a very active role in many of those plant rescues. And so that is an example of advocacy, if you ask me, is, hey, everybody, we're doing this. Do you want some free plants and you want to save some of these rare plants that are about to get bulldozed? And another version of advocacy that people forget about, the scholarships, even, or grants. And it doesn't have to be the state that's administering it. Your chapter can do these things. And so those are examples of advocacy campaigns. And there's also political advocacy, vote for this bill or this local resolution or whatever it is that's going to, allow us to plant native plants or reduce our water usage, all those kinds of things that some of our speakers have been talking about. These are good things for you to engage your members with because they don't know about this stuff. Y'all are better plugged in, so let them know. And I would add, I also want you to talk about educational content as well.
The force of nature that Haley presented, she said there's 21 schools. 6 of them are from the Rio Grande Valley.
Yay.
And what we did is we made sure that, I know I have educators that are part of our chapter. I know there are educators that are part of the Master Naturalist chapters. And I happen to know a few folks that work in Region 1, which is our TEA teacher people. They disseminated that to all the principals in the Rio Grande Valley. And we had 6 schools sort of respond. I wish that I could say there were more, but hey, we started with 0, we'll take 6.
There we go, it's working.
And all of these are great teachers that all they're looking for is a little bit of extra help, because if you're a teacher, you know that you're doing so much already.
Yeah.
And so our chapter is happy to do that and sort of fill in some of those gaps, but promote the advocacy, promote what our society wants to do for the betterment of our entire community. So that whole Children in Nature network that we've tapped into is another resource. So you go out there and you start meeting all these folks, taking business cards, writing down phone numbers, because you never know when they will be a great resource.
That's right. Liz, y'all have done some of this. Art contest, was that yours?
Yeah, we have the art exhibit, but I have a question or a comment, I don't know. I would love to go support these state initiatives, but when they come out, all I get is PDF documents. I can't post a PDF to Facebook. I have to put a link to it on my website. I can't put it in Instagram. I go back to the source. I say, can you get this to me with a PNG or a JPEG picture that doesn't have crap written on it, just a pretty picture that I can use in one little paragraph? No, I never can get that.
That gives me a great idea. One thing that we need to be able to do is create sort of a communications mailbox.
A press kit.
Well, see what I have, and so I have a technical background. So I have the software that allows me to convert every PDF to a PNG. 5 seconds. I need to be able to share that with everybody to say, you can do this too, and this is what it looks like.
Yeah,
But even when you do that, look at what, I mean, I love the Force and Nature program, and we did a lot of work to broadcast information about it. But I got a PDF that's like 90%
yeah.
verbiage.
Robert and I are trying to break the PDF fixation that people have. And it's not just the society, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm in corporate and we do the same stuff. So we're with you. We understand the issue and we're gonna keep working on that to make sure the tools we give y'all are something you can actually use.
Yeah, and the rack cards, when they send them, I mean, there's no way I can print them, I should be able to get 6 or 3
Yeah.
or whatever on a regular piece of paper, take it to Office Depot, print it front and back, but the way it's done, it's 1 per page.
They're meant to, those rack cards are designed to be printed by a printer, unfortunately, and not on your printer. What I hear the feedback is, we need the home print version of the
Yeah.
rack cards too. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
To be easy.
Yeah.
Card stop at home.
Yeah,
Well,
Well,
and
even if you took the artwork that we got to a UPS store, they can't print from that. I mean, they can, but it's gonna be ungodly expensive,
yeah, that's right.
you know?
and definitely what we do for our chapter is we'll take that image, put it on, arrange it so that it looks good on paper, so that when I print it out on cardstock, I can just go out there and slice it.
Yeah.
And so we need to make sure that you have that format already.
Without asking 30 of y'all to do it for.
Because to take that, to make it look like that is great, but expensive. But guess what, that cardstock, that looks pretty good.
Yeah,
Oh, this is deep, oh, you do self-print,
yeah,
ask them to
Things
cardstock, self-print, and in the color, it's like 85 cents or 75 cents per page, or it's
Yeah.
not, and then if you do front and back, you know, it's.
and you're double.
75 cents a page, that's 25 cents for every one of those that gets scanned out.
We started doing
I
was
was making that
making
kind of money.
a poster that we put on the table or 2 or 3 printouts and they have a QR code that goes to where all the information is.
I do that
So
too,
if
because
they
we
got
got
take it, they just QR it.
yeah, but you still have to make all that.
Or you want.
We are working, that's one of Haley's initiatives, giving y'all a database of tools and logos and all that, and then you can build stuff with. Yeah, that's right.
Maybe you make some of the rack cards into just a bookmark.
Especially if it's a calendar little thing.
Oh, okay, good feedback, thank you.
We use bookmarks for our.
Yeah. That's great, love it.
No, by the way, if you wanted a unique QR code for your chapter, for an initiative that your chapter has, the society has the software that you let me know, I'll create it. And so even within the society, we're trying to fix those things too, so that we can put QR codes on the things we already have, but give you the ability to create a QR code. So when you think about where does your money go when the society says, okay, this money goes to IT? In some cases, that's us.
Yeah,
And we're looking for some of that software that we can leverage back to you to say, you want a QR code? Give me your chapter logo that I can put in the center of that QR code. What colors do you want? We can make it look nice. So that now you can carry that along and use it.
And that includes on, the resources trees and such as that, even cut this in half as a bookmark size, putting the QR code on it. We save this material.
there you go.
Quantity, yeah.
It
that-
works.
That's consistency with our mission.
And then if you imagine that QR code on every pot that you sell in your
Yeah,
plant sale
Versus.
versus
Yeah.
for the visitors of our database, they can still print out their plant list. But for you guys with your expenses of carrying out the plant sale, we can look for these other little tools. And if you find something, if you see somebody else that uses a cool, you don't know how they did it, send us a picture of it and say, boy, it'd be great if we could do that too. And we'll figure it out. How we will.
Now, we've got 3 more slides we want to get through, and only about 5 minutes, if you can believe, in the session left. So I'm going to just move a little more quickly and highlight some of the key top points that we wanted to make. First off, One of the things that we find social media does and websites in general, some of those websites y'all use are not specific to your eco region or your city. They are Texas wide, and that's still applicable enough. You live on the border, close to another country, and you share information and bring information. The point is that the work we do to communicate needs to help break down cultural barriers and not create more cultural barriers. I think it's really important for us to consider whether it's age, race, religion, what you're interested in, gender, any of that stuff. Plants are the great neutralizer, right? None of that matters to us. We don't care. Bring on all takers for native plants. And so consider that with your posts. Be culturally sensitive. But remember that the things that you're posting are probably being seen by those 11,000 members of your Facebook group, most of which don't even live in your ecoregion probably. So remember that you're in this communicating way more broadly than you probably think you are most of the time.
And one thing I like to do is when I see your post of a unique plant, I share it to my chapter to say, by the way, this species is cousin to our, and here's our version. Because that educates my folks too, to know, well, I mean, this plant is all over the place. It might look slightly different, but it's the same one. And then for me to be, and for me to be able to go and I show them a photo of a Wasachi at Lady Bird Johnson to say, guess what? Our Wasachi that we're so used to, it's moving north.
Yeah.
And people are looking at that, wondering what it is, and I'm like, oh, that's everywhere where I'm from.
Right.
And all the sandpaper tree, the anaqua, and all these different plants are showing up here, which is an interesting message for me to take back when we're talking about how are things changing when we're talking about the climate.
They really are. Now, another point that I think is important, particularly with Facebook, but your website is the foundation of this, is community building. One of the reasons people like Austin's Facebook group is because it's active. You mentioned it. Someone mentioned it. You joined because there's a lot of, and that's community. That's us helping each other. And you trust these people. And we're not a bunch of jerks, and we're nice. And if you ask a dumb question, we're still going to answer it. And there are no dumb questions, right? And so you build community one person at a time by being nice, by being helpful. And that's really all it takes. And that's why our Facebook group is not closed, it's open, but we moderate and just make sure, because we want as many people as possible in there to be a part of our community and contribute to it, because they see you answering a few questions and then next week they'll be answering some questions. And that's how we all got started, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. So this is one I think, Robert, I'm going to hand off to you.
One thing about the content creation is that if your chapter does not have the tools to be able to create the content to the level that you want, let me know. I'd love to work with somebody in your chapter to sort of fine tune that, tell you what tools we use that we have that you can use. Some of them are intuitive, some of them are not, but if you have somebody that has a technical background, no problem. I mean, we'll figure it out. What I would love to be able to tell you that in a year from now, we'll have a network of folks that are doing content creation across all our chapters. We're sharing photos from everywhere, across the board, whatever it is. I'd love to be able to showcase your flowering plants for this month, along with those from the coast, from the, you name it, all over the state. And that takes a lot of collaboration and a lot of work together. I'd love to be able to create a lot of templates that anybody can take and just sort of fill in with your photos and your information. And we got the same look and feel, our society colors, everything that we want. And it just takes me finding your contacts that I can work with. And so we can build up our content and the tools that we use. Some things, that image on the left, it's on the left, is Canva. Very simple, very easy to use. We can do a lot with it. We can do even more than what we do today.
And it's free for you.
And again, that's another thing. If you don't know, some of these are free for nonprofit organizations like ours. And so now your chapter doesn't have to worry about spending money on this. And there's a great team capability that you can create a team within your chapter, and all of them are working on the content creation for your group. Tie that to the state's level of folks that are trying to build content, and we can create something even better than what you see now. One thing I remember what I didn't say before that I couldn't remember. Some of that content, Craig said, you know what, I love building content that's really just sort of eye candy for you, that gets your attention. But like when in your chapter meetings, in your plant walks, our symposium today, I'm posting what I see. I'm posting it now. And what I want to do is make people jealous that they're not here with us.
Yeah,
So on your plant walk, take those photos, find somebody that can post them right away, however shape or form, so that they know you're active, you're doing things. Because we tend to, especially me, there's so much that you do and you forget to take your phone out to take a picture.
Yeah.
And by the end of the day, it's like, man, I didn't take one. And it takes a little bit of discipline on our end to make sure to capture everything you guys do.
and I think that raises a key point of don't make it harder than it has to be.
Yeah.
This is not rocket science. It doesn't have to be the perfect image that's going to live forever. It's a picture. You post it, having fun. Join us next month. That's all. That's the hook, right?
Yes, absolutely. And then the last piece on the dissemination, I described how I try to use the social media link to the database, to the website, the databases, those static pages, because that captures all the information. What's missing on that picture is all the chapter Facebook pages, all the things that you guys do that in somehow, in some shape or form, I need to do a better job at knowing what you're doing. Because if it's a great initiative, let's share it across the state's Facebook page. Our Facebook page has 35,000 followers. That's a huge audience for us to share what you do. We need to sort of take advantage of that, because the more people that look at that, there may be people following the society's page that, wait a minute, there's a chapter near me. I didn't know that. And I'd love to be able to use, for us to be a tool for you just as much as you might have information that I want to use as well. And so we need to sort of keep that dissemination strategy, we need to improve that a little bit more.
And the final point we'll make, and this will be our close, is reach outside our bubbles. So we are all in the native plant community. We all went to the same Facebook groups and stuff. But you, when you started your chapter, you went to master naturalist groups, you went to community groups. There are other Facebook groups that are plant oriented that are not Native Plant Society, where you can post too. You can post the same stuff you put in your chapter about, hey, we're having a plant walk this weekend. Come learn about native plants. Maybe they're your future members. So don't just speak to ourselves, speak to the broader community outside the bubble and try to plant these seeds that ultimately will get people to join us.
And definitely get yourself out there to all these different organizations. It's still when you can make that contact with somebody, they become a huge resource to help you open the door to go speak to somebody in the Parks Department or a city or what have you. That there's still that human element. We support the technology and stuff, but we also say that's a tool that you can't, it does not replace that handshake.
Get you to face-to-face meetings sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. But again, we're supporting these tools for our society and your chapters. Call on us whenever you run into anything, any question, anything that you need.
That's right. And on top of that, thank you for all you do for native plants and for the society. Thanks, bunch.